Welcome. Thank you for joining us. This is the Marion City Council work session for Tuesday, July 16, 2019. Do we need a roll call?
Yeah, we have a closed session tonight.
Okay, so we need a roll call, please.
Mr. Draper? Ms. Atkins? Here. Mr. Jensen?
Here.
Mayor Abu-Asli?
Here.
Mr. Sternad?
Here.
Mr. Brandt?
Here.
Ms. Gedalia?
Here.
Okay, thank you. First on our agenda for discussion tonight is a presentation by Sarah Menser from Be Well Marion.
There we go. It's listed on there as the steering committee, but right now that would be Sarah Menser, 2305 Timber Creek Drive, Marion. Hello. I am here today representing the Be Well Marion Steering Committee and to give the council an update kind of where we are after our Blue Zones project work and where we're on our next steps because we have some exciting things happening. So as everybody knows, we were certified as a Blue Zones community, and shortly after that, Wellmark did not renew its contract with Blue Zones project. So we had the option as a local community to sign directly with Blue Zones and continue using that brand. That was very, very cost prohibitive, 6 figures cost prohibitive. So we looked at just rebranding it as Be Well Marion. At that same time, Wellmark went into a contract as Healthy Hometown. They created their own brand. This is a free service to communities in Iowa. They also serve South Dakota because of Wellmark's territory. We are grandfathered in as a Healthy Hometown community. If a community in Iowa wanted to become a Healthy Hometown and had not participated in Blue Zones project, they would have some steps and some planning and some things to go through to be a part of that. But because we were already certified, we're a Blue Zones project, or we're a Healthy Hometown. So we looked at, they presented to us right away and said, do you want to be involved in this new program? And at that time we were like, we've got a lot happening from the work and the plans we did during Blue Zones project. Not real sure we need to take on more plans and more things. So let us just kind of figure out where we're at. We'll go from there. We've been continuing with Sunrise Yoga. Every year that grows. This year alone, we're over 700 attendees. We're averaging over 100 people every Saturday morning. Thank you to the Parks Department as a partner with that project. We couldn't do it without Parks. It's volunteer instructors. It's just a great way to watch the community come together. People hang out, they drink coffee, they come with friends, they meet new people. Invite all of you, if you haven't tried it, to come out and join us. We still are working with the Uptown Garden right over here. And again, thank you to Parks because we lost our water supply this year in the house because of the construction that's going on. And this is not a summer that's really great for not having water. So they have been helping us out with the watering trucks that are watering the flowers to come over and to water the garden because we just can't haul that much in and we can't collect it off of any roof to help with that. So we've continued with that work, continued with Safe Routes to School, other things happening, but we said, you know what, we really need to kind of figure out what's next. So we were contacted in February by, it just happens that our staff member from Blue Zones Project, John Werger, has gone to work for Wellmark and is working with Healthy Hometown now. So he called and said, Marion was always a leader in this. We'd love to have you involved in Healthy Hometown. What do you think? So they came in, did a little presentation to a small group that was involved in Blue Zones Project. We said, doesn't cost anything, and it's grassroots driven as opposed to how we've done this before. This could be a good thing. Cedar Rapids did continue with Healthy Hometown. They're involved in that a little bit, and there's some other communities within Lynn County that want to get involved, so we really have an opportunity to lead and to help them come on board with this. So we did a planning session in April with their staff, about a 3-hour, and what we really communicated to Healthy Hometown staff was we have plans. We've approved Step Into Nature. We have a Safe Routes to School plan we've approved. We have ImagineX that's here. We don't need to come up with new things. Our community's got a lot of great things happening, but we need a way to wrap them all together and to take the things we want out of the plans and drive them home. So they helped us really take those plans and go through and prioritize, find the things that we wanted to see happen, and through that, a follow-up meeting last month, and then continued work that we will have going forward, you have the plan that's in front of you. So the handout that you have, the first part is just a brief overview on Healthy Hometown, which again it's free to the local communities. And what they're providing for us is resources on the initiatives in which we want to move forward. So we don't have to do like we did before, where we're getting pledges signed and certifying restaurants and certifying schools and all the things we did. It's really looking at where our priorities are and then saying, Healthy Hometown, what resources do you have to help us carry this through? So we put together, and I want to emphasize, this is an inclusive, not exclusive process. Our goal, we started with a group like this that had been involved in Blue Zones Project, also people that had direct influence and knowledge of the plans that we were wrapping in together, so people who had helped write those. And now we're trying to work out from there. We would love to have as many community members involved in this. It's a continued conversation on people wanting to have volunteer opportunities, impactful volunteer opportunities. There's ways that they can do that here, but we just need to get the word out that people can join and be a part of it. So wanted to let the council know and get you an update on some of the work that's being done on these initiatives. City staff is involved. Invite you all to be a part of it as well, wherever your passions are. This is not a closed list. We've had people come forward since this was developed and say, hey, have we ever thought about this? Have we ever thought about that? I've got an idea for this. And we're like, that sounds like it's a great opportunity. Come join the group and be involved. So any questions so far?
We're not calling it Be Well Marion anymore?
No, we'll continue to call it Be Well. We'll say Be Well Marion, a healthy hometown.
Okay.
So we can
it's the Healthy Hometown Program, but our name for it is Be Well Marion.
Yes, and
Just so it's clear to everybody.
Yes, and one of the things for with using Healthy Hometown resources is you can use it or not. You can put their logo up there. You don't have to put the logo up there. We can.
So the resources, is it just like advising and consulting, or are there grants through them we can apply for some of these projects? Or?
They do grants. It's not specific. There's some award pieces that you can get that's Healthy Hometown that you can apply for communities, kind of like we received in the initial Blue Zones project.
Yeah.
The resources they have are really experts. So like a walk audit, we did the walk audit during Safe Routes to School for Marion Independent. They will provide a person to come for free to do a walk audit if we have a section we wanted to do. If it was a question on gardening, they have experts on that will come in and help us. So the other side of it is the Wellmark grants, which are separate from Healthy Hometown, which we did receive a large grant for the Safe Routes to School first steps leading out from Vernon Middle School. So it's tied together, but it's not directly. There's no financial contribution to us from them for it unless we are applying for other things. It's really just using experts, resources. I think part of the piece that's beneficial that we worked a lot with Blue Zones Project was everybody spoke the same language in the community when we were talking about it, and that's kind of continued, and that's one of the goals as we work on this, is really kind of bringing that back together. Also, when we're talking about some of these initiatives, having the data to say why, and that was another big part that really helped us to be able to say, well, why do we care whether kids walk to school more? Well, now we've got the resources back to that data that allows us to kind of discuss it from a statistical and data-driven conversation.
Other questions for Sarah?
We'll be back and keeping you informed and keeping you updated. But again, if anybody would like to be involved, if you know of people who would like to be involved, please contact me or one of the steering committee members. We just would love to plug in people who want to be active.
Is there I don't know, somewhere where we can send people? Because I get people all the time that say, how can I be involved? And this could be something that's interesting to them. So is there a Facebook page or a website or something where they can reach you easily?
We do have a Be Well Marion Facebook page that they can message. That's one way people reach out to me. The Gmail isn't as active as it should be, and some people don't like it, so I can provide my email to folks who want to reach out. And my cell phone, that's probably the best way, is people just call.
Okay. So
we're the number.
I have your cell phone.
Yeah, you can reach out for that one too. So I will provide that in case anybody reaches out.
Thank you for all your work on this.
Thank you.
For all the work you did on getting us certified as a Blue Zones community. I think everybody knows, but we were the 13th city in the country to be certified Blue Zones and first high school in the world.
Yep,
Right,
first one.
so-
It's a lot of exciting things. It's great pieces we've led on, and we actually are having some opportunities now with leading with Lynn County Public Health on some walkability and connection pieces that we're going to be coming forward with in the next few months that we're tied in with. So it's exciting times. So thank you for your commitment to the well-being of Marion.
Did we ever, just real quick, this may be for the staff, but we had applied for a large grant for the Safe Routes to School in the Marion district.
Yes.
We never heard anything further about that. That we didn't get it.
No.
Okay.
Kesha.
But we still have the other grant.
Yes,
The
we have the
100,000.
it was 75,000 from Wellmark that was part of, the first steps of it coming from Vernon and out. And then we're trying to use those funds to leverage some federal funds that were available back in December, but very competitively, but didn't get that. But Kesha's continuing to use that to try to find resources so we can help continue the next phases of the Safe
So we're
Routes
still
to
going to
School.
hold off on using that money and try to leverage it to get other money? Or?
I think it's being used, but you'd have to ask Kesha on that one.
Yeah, we are putting a program together, trying to figure out what we can do with the money that we have. Some of it has expiration dates, so we would have to ask for continuances with it. So we're working with them, and then there's some property we're trying to do a quiet title on as well that we're waiting for legal to get done on that as well.
So we are moving ahead with our original plan for that?
Yeah, we can't do the entire plan that we...
No,
we
I'm
posted.
saying for the 75,000.
Yeah, we're going to do what we can with the money that we have.
Right. Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Sarah. All right. Anything else on page 1 that anyone would like to address, which is not starred? Or page 2 or 3? See, we have nothing there that's starred for discussion by the staff. If there's anything anyone would like to address individually, should be a good time to do it. Okay, if there's nothing on the consent agenda, then we'll move on to regular agenda and administrative services. Number 1 and 2 are starred for discussion. Okay.
Thank you, Your Honor. A1 and A2 kind of go together. A1 is the funding mechanism for A2, and A1 and 2 are just amendments to current agreements that we have. So this was the $4.5 million economic development grant that we awarded to the GLD commercial for the Town Place Suites hotel that recently opened. And the grant, the funding mechanism for the grant bond, the revenue bond, had a disbursement, or shall I say withdrawal, close date of June 1st. And the grant itself had a date of June 30th. So we're just extending both dates to be the same date, September 30th, to account for retainage, because when they request dollars, they have to show invoices and payment. So it's just an administrative item to extend the date. The amount stays the same to September 30th.
Questions? Okay. Number 6 is the next item.
Number 6 is the public hearing on the proposal to enter into the GO Urban Renewal Loan Agreement. This is for the YMCA issuance that we are currently working on. And I got some notes. We are setting the sale date for August 8th. This bond will have a par amount currently estimated at $6.41 million and a maturity date of June 1st, 2037. And I did share notes in the memo. A memo was shared back in December of where Lon had estimated where the debt service levy would end up as a result of that. And Tiana's analysis thus far is close in alignment with it, with the cap of 27 cents in 2026. for this particular issuance. Are there more details that we're still kind of working through the analysis, but her latest numbers do show similar to what Lon had. The years aren't exactly the same, but.
Any questions on that? Any questions or discussion that anyone would like to have on any other administrative services item that is not starred? If not, we'll move on to engineering, which every item is starred.
What does that say?
Your turn, Mr. Bartolo.
All right, so the first two items are a public hearing regarding the sanitary sewer slip lining and then accepting bids and awarding contract. So the locations are the 8 that are shown up on the screen. We got good prices again this year. Last year, the last 2 or 3 years, it's been Municipal Pipe was the low bidder. This year it was SAK Construction. So we did receive 5 bids, the low bid being from SAK at 81.7%. It has a completion date of October 25th of 19, and there's $300 per day in liquidated damages if they don't complete it by that date. So we are recommending approving that contract. We will likely, with that remaining money that we have left, do a change order to add some additional locations, and we'll bring that back to council with those good numbers that we got.
Sounds good. Any questions on that item? Okay. Thank you, Mike.
All right, the next one. Schneider Associates came and gave the traffic report. I also put the traffic report in your council packet, and that's the final one. So basically, the different alternatives that they came up with, the first one was pretty much status quo that's out there today, and all they did was add it'd be a westbound and northbound right turn lane, and then putting new signals up. The next option was actually eliminating a portion of 10th Avenue, and then also adding that right turn lane. The next alternative that they looked at was the recommended option that we'll talk about more. That's adding the right turn lane. It's actually extending Linden Drive and then adding a raised median on 35th Street so that it would restrict those left-hand turns. So if you're going northbound, you would not be able to turn left onto 10th Avenue, and if you were on 10th Avenue, you would not be able to turn left onto 35th to go to like Hy-Vee. And that would reduce a lot of those conflict points that we see at that intersection because they're so close. The next alternative they looked at was actually signalizing both intersections, but because it just broke down immediately, they just pretty much threw that one out because they're too close. There's not enough queuing between them to do that. And then the last option was a rather large roundabout. That was pretty expensive too. If you can see the CVS to the southwest of it, it almost fits inside the center of that roundabout. So it's a pretty big one. So what we're looking for is based on the traffic study and the presentation that was given, staff would like direction of what alternative to move forward so that we can get a consultant on board if we want to apply for funding and get a project going, because those are the oldest set of signals that we have in the city, and we would like to get them replaced before they make them get replaced by falling over.
God forbid.
So I'd open it up for a discussion, or if you guys have questions.
Any have questions or discussion? And you're recommending the alternative 2?
Yep, that's what was in the alternative 2, which is Exhibit B, which is the raised median on 35th, adding the turn lanes, extending Linden Drive.
And so that would prevent people from turning left from 10th to 35th,
Correct.
as well as turning, where was the other?
So there would be a raised median that would get installed right here.
Yeah.
There's a right turn lane for those going westbound and northbound.
Okay.
And then Linden would actually be extended. This would become a 3-way stop control intersection where northbound traffic would not have to stop, but all other directions would, because this is such a short section in there. We don't want them to queue out onto 7th Avenue.
Okay. I misunderstood. I thought there was another spot where you wouldn't be able to turn left. But, okay.
You won't. So if you're going northbound, you won't be able to turn left onto 10th either.
Oh, that's it.
So to limit that raised island eliminates a couple left-hand turn movements. But again, if you know that
You'd
ahead
have
of
to-
time,
The people would just change their route. They'd have to turn left on the 151 and then take that new street.
yeah, the hardest
go-
change
to
for
go like
people
to
would be the
Fairway
ones
or-
going to
yeah.
Hy-Vee probably.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I mean, of the four, of all of the recommendations, I certainly do think this is the best because, again, I'm still shocked at the accident reports that there has not been more accidents, but as much as I drive that, I really see very few accidents because I think everybody drives so defensively in that intersection all the time because you know somebody's going to come through and zip through there, or make a right turn on red, and they're going to do everything they're not supposed to. The only negative I see with this one is I would anticipate as people coming from the west want to go to Hy-Vee that they'll be cutting, taking the road past, or is that what's the road right past Fairway?
So this technically isn't a road, that's just a private
No,
street, but
is that
I
Linden?
could see people.
Linden's north and south.
Yeah, the north-south road by Fairway, that's Linden?
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so I do see people turning left there and then turning through the parking lot right behind that building to go to Hy-Vee. So as we think about this plan, I think it cleans up a lot of the problems I see around 7th, 10th Avenue and 35th. But I do see a lot of cut-throughs happening there and going to Hy-Vee, and so I think you got another, potential issue right there. I don't know if we can think about right now what we can do with that, but I will predict that is going to be the next area that's going to have a lot more traffic cutting through.
They did recommend removing this access point, which would be for US Cellular and
Yeah.
Jimmy John's there. We could certainly look at removing one of those if they're willing, but they may not want to for their semi-vehicles to get through there. I know even like behind Walmart, some people cut through Linaire, and they've put speed bumps up on there, and it's private, so they can do that, and that could be a solution here, but yes, they're going to find a different route to go through.
And that's going to be it. Because, that comes out right across, almost directly across from the Hy-Vee entrance, so. But it cleans up that intersection, I think, very nicely. Okay.
I'm just going to throw my 2 cents in. Unfortunately, that is the one I would throw out as the worst intersection. I look at these reports and these...
Worst option?
The worst option, yes.
Okay.
Because I look at these traffic counts, and when I see 116 left-hand turns, 165 left-hand turns, I know we can sit here and engineer this all day long, but I know there's going to be stacking going on 7th Avenue. That's a very short deal there, and you start getting delivery trucks. That semi-truck will not be able to extend in that I've gone out there, I've driven that. My truck would be the distance of my pickup truck, let alone delivery trucks that are going to be impeding on those points. Like to your mention, when I go to Hy-Vee, that's how I go, right up 10th, because it's right up my road. It's a one street deal all the way. You can't make a left turn, forcing people to cut through. I guarantee you the Family Video who owns that building there will be figuring out a way to block that back driveway on that private property, because that'll be the cut through. In my opinion, that would not be my selection, but by the same token too, I agree that section needs to go away. So I'm still not convinced that we still have the right solution here. I don't like what we have, but...
Would you not extend Linden?
Pardon me?
Are you suggesting not to extend Linden through?
Yeah, I would not extend Linden just because the traffic volume and the distance. It doesn't, in my opinion, it's not a long enough road. When we shut those down, vision cars being stacked up in all directions there because we're choking the volume of cars there. So now we're going to get the hostile driving environment, in my opinion. We've got a couple of those in the town now where people are, you're trying to beat the traffic. You're trying to synchronize the other cars going through there. You know what I mean? There's spots that car stops or doesn't execute exactly what you think. That's my opinion. Again, I know we've got we sit here and we say engineering, roundabouts, but sometimes common sense kind of comes back into this a little bit, but perfect world, we'd just cut that through. We would go ahead and let everybody buy that right of way back out and build another building in there and square it out. But, you know, that ain't an option either, so.
I agree with Randy that extending Linden, that is a really short, I mean, you cannot get two vehicles. The only positive I thought about that is I think you're going to see on 10th Avenue heading east less traffic than you are today because nobody can turn left.
Correct, I agree.
So you're only turning right, so I think the amount of traffic, if you do a traffic study, if this were done, I think you're going to see a significant reduction in the amount of traffic in that stretch right there. But that's the only good thing about extending that is there's going to be fewer cars in the future. So that's why overall I liked it. I agree that could be a little hazardous, but.
Other thoughts or discussion?
I guess maybe I'll just throw it back out because I know what it's like to be in Mike's shoes. I guess, you know, if you were to poll the council, I guess I would be looking at Exhibit A2 would be my preferred mode. It would be still a four-way controlled light, removing the eastern part of 10th Street out of there and just eliminating all the traffic because, you know, once again, as we did mention, it's a habit. It's a habit. People are going to have to change their habits. You're going to have to turn and go further out of the way to get to the same destination, which would be the grocery store in this particular case for that entity, you know.
Yes, Ms. Gadela.
So is the only difference between that and the recommended proposal right now not extending Linden and closing off 10th? Everything else,
I believe
median,
so.
extended median.
Yeah, so basically we wouldn't add that raised median on 35th because you wouldn't need to because you would remove that section of 10th Avenue. That section of 10th Avenue would go away and we would not extend Linden to the south.
Yeah, I mean, you know, my engineering credentials are pretty low, but I do think, to Randy's point, you know, I think about that. The worst parking lot in this whole area is the Starbucks, Bed Bath & Beyond nightmare that people are constantly cutting through. And I feel like we're creating that a little bit here. People are going to drive through other businesses that aren't intended to be driven through. So I think that this really kind of squashes that a little bit. It does provide less options for people, but I think that most people aren't, you know, I think that this one's probably better overall, but if the majority is fine with the other, I'm fine with that too, but just to weigh in, because I know you're looking for feedback.
Yeah, but this one here, you're going to have the same cut-through behind that building. If they want to go to Hy-Vee, they're still going to go down Linden and cut behind that building.
They both encourage that.
Yeah, I don't think anything you do
So, yeah, neither one of those, or they're both going to have the same impact on that parking lot.
But if you leave that, right, and people go through to 10th, they realize they can't go left, they're going to go right through the light, and they're going to go right again, and then try to juke left over here into CVS or whatever's right next to it. And then there are going to be a bunch of left turns off of that 4-lane in traffic where there's nothing there. That's just my concern. More turning around haphazardly on the 4-lane of 7th. But none of it's awesome. I mean, I don't.
This almost looks and feels like the Collins Road mall there, you know, where we've just abandoned the road, you know, and now people are diagonally driving right across the parking lot.
Oh, by Petco and Michael's,
Yeah, on the other side though, over by the Michael's and, yeah, exactly. Yeah. And that's kind of what we can't control the private sector, so I mean there will be some, no matter what we do, that frustration level is going to be there of controlling drive-through traffic on that property there.
Well, if we did this one and we're cutting, say you want to close 10th Avenue there, then why wouldn't we extend Linden so people could at least turn north on Linden off of 7th Avenue?
my opinion, again, I'll go back to the stacking on 7th Avenue. I
Yeah, I
witnessed
know.
our stacking
Yeah.
at the Dunkin' Donuts. If
Yeah,
you
I
guys could
understand.
sit in my office and watch those cars back up,
They're terrible.
it's horrendous. Go,
I agree.
7 o'clock on a Friday morning, cars are backed up and they're clogged right there at the fire station. I mean, we say it doesn't happen, but it does happen. And I don't care if it's once a day or 10 times a day. Once is a mess, and especially right there
on that
on the
stretch of
volume.
road.
I mean, that's a highway.
What about forcing, what's the road with the X's on it? Is that 10th?
10th Avenue.
So what if we made that a one-way at some point, like after the four-way stop? I don't even know if that makes sense, but just to try to force people to go down, what is that, 31st, and use that actual light and take a left? Because if people are coming from the west and they're trying to get to Hy-Vee, the mad dash for groceries, don't we want to try to encourage them onto 7th at an earlier point than, I mean, the parking lot for Jimmy John's is already teeny. I don't know, I don't love one-ways either. Again, my engineering degree is,
People are very
Yeah.
hostile
I know,
toward one ways.
it's not none of it's awesome.
Even Cedar Rapids is going away.
There's no real clear
It's
solution.
a terrible intersection.
It is.
I mean, the roundabout is the best solution, but it's prohibitive. Seriously, is it prohibitive,
It
cost
is.
prohibitive?
It
Yeah,
is.
so,
It would be an awesome intersection.
It's
but
the
You
most
could put a small
expensive
city
option.
in the center of that one.
yeah. I mean, really, if it ever made sense anywhere, it's here.
But that's way too
But,
expensive.
yeah. So,
You know, we could always just go with option, A2, and then build that little section later if it warranted it. You know, it would be a two-step process, but it wouldn't be the end of the world. But each has its own valid arguments, and we all agree that stacking of 3 cars at the 4-way, and then you got to create that break so cars can make the westbound turn. Those of us that live here, that's an easy deal to navigate. But those that are coming in from out of town, and especially again with all of our, Prospect Meadows and things, we got a lot of newbies in town that don't understand our engineering.
Or if we did A2, put Linden through, and if it is a really bad problem, then we can always close it off again. I know it's money down, but it's not the biggest cost of this entire project. The new lights are.
I don't know if you're going to have a lot of stacking there, Randy, because there's no stop coming off of 7th.
It'll be making the left-hand turn, though. You're right. We could.
mean-
I don't
well,
want
is it a raised median?
I hope so. You can't make a
You
left
can't go
off that
left
little
going east,
thing
right?
off Linden, right?
Yeah, you wouldn't be
Or
able to
which
go
option are we
left.
talking about?
Going on A2, going east, or A1, sorry. No, which one is,
The one that extends Linden.
which one extends Linden?
The extension is two-way.
Oh, B.
Right, but you can't take a
But
left
you
onto
can't take a
7th.
left going east on 7th Avenue.
Correct.
No, because
Okay,
it's a center
good.
meridian.
There's a raised median on 7th Avenue.
Yeah, so that
Yeah.
might solve Randy's concern, maybe, I don't know.
Is there an extended right turn lane going into that new Linden extension?
I don't know if it'll let me zoom in or not.
Looks
So-
like it.
Right. turn
Okay,
lane.
so that'll stack some of the traffic right there. So in other words, those are not getting in the way of the two main traffic lanes. There's a right turn lane onto that short new Linden stretch. Is that correct?
I was trying to zoom in for you, but, so that Linden Lane, there is a small turn lane, and that could be
Oh, yeah,
extended longer. But you can see it here.
Yeah.
There's a short one that could be extended a little bit. The problem is you can't get it too close to that
No,
intersection.
but we could do it a little longer.
Sure.
Yeah, there's nothing going on in that grassy area.
We're going to Frankenstein this thing to death tonight.
Right.
Look at us.
And then also,
Well,
just to bring to your attention, we have not talked to any of the businesses or anything around this area about this either, so.
Oh, yeah, Hy-Vee's not gonna like it.
I think there's just a lot that impacts this area there, I mean, we don't have the build-out of the east roundabout, and, we all witness going westbound now. Everybody starts moving over into that right lane right here. As soon as you get through there, it's a racetrack to get to the right-hand lane before you get to the 31st Street intersection going into that leg, you can watch it. You can play ball out there in that left-hand lane, because there ain't anybody out there unless you're from out of town and you don't know where you're at, because, you know, you gotta get in the right-hand lane to continue on, but
That'll change.
Eventually, that'll change.
that's why I say I wish that leg was open on that east roundabout, so we could actually witness this, but anyway, I don't
Well,
wanna
they should
digress
get-
this.
Does
They
that-
should get finished about the same time.
Yeah.
Does that help with your concern, though, Randy, knowing that you can't turn left going east on 7th?
Yeah, well, and I already knew that, because as you take a look at that, you know, the traffic going, find it here again. Yeah, you know, the median, I don't know really what that, you're talking about there's a median in Linden Drive extension?
No, there's a median on 7th Avenue. So if you were eastbound
Oh, yeah,
7th,
yeah, yeah.
you wouldn't be able to take a left-hand turn.
Prevent you from
Yeah,
taking left.
right.
These cars can't turn left anymore.
It's,
Only stacking would be people turning right.
mhm.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, well, all of a sudden, we're all engineers.
We're used to that.
Moving on to law, what do we want to do with law next? Sorry.
Other comments or thoughts? I mean, this is your proposed recommendation is option B.
And the specialist.
That's what,
The engineer's
that's what
recommendation.
Schneider and Associates said
Schneider
was their
Associates as
recommended
well. Yeah.
solution.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other thoughts? Any other?
So we're just gonna, everyone's in general agreement, but we're gonna add in, like Steve said, elongate the turn lane? Do we need to, does that language need to be in there for Thursday, or does everyone agree with that? I think that's a good thought.
I think that you'd make that as long as you can with the restriction, you know, with the restrictions that you have of not being too close to that intersection.
Yeah.
That technically, that green space is a waterway, right? It's a retention.
Some of it, and some of it just has the overhead power lines there as
Okay,
well.
so it's not designated as a retention? water
No, I mean,
retention?
it serves as a ditch.
Okay, all right.
It just is a wet ditch all the time. It's not a pretty area. That'd be my only other thought is, you know, you drive by there when it rains a lot. It's just not a pretty area. And if you do this, is there something, I'd love to say, can we just fill it in and make it a nice level, better looking area, but, you know.
We'd have to put some culverts in, but yeah.
Yeah.
Pollinator habitat, Mike.
All the way over to 30.
I'm saying once we put that road through, maybe it shrinks it some, so. But anyway.
Just a quick question. On this one, you closed one of the entrances, right, to go into the Jimmy John's
Yeah.
parking lot?
That's their proposal, yeah, to
Right.
the very easterly one.
So will it be an in and an out on just that one entrance that'll be left there on 151?
Yeah, so they
I
would
mean, will
only
that
have
create
one-
some challenge where folks are trying to come in and out the same space?
Yeah, what they're trying, and we don't have to close that entrance, but they're recommending closing it because their two entrances are aligned, and so they're just afraid there's going to be a lot of cut-through traffic there.
Yeah.
That's what they're trying to avoid.
Which that makes sense. I cut through there now, I get it.
Yeah,
I'm on it. I just wonder though,
See, I'm
I
not
don't know
doing it.
I don't know the answer or the
that legal?
solution, but probably not. So
use
don't,
that.
please don't look for me. I'm just kidding. I take it back.
Her license
Pops
plate
is
number.
following you home
Right,
tonight.
but I just wonder, right, we don't want folks to get stuck at that one entrance on waiting for people to come in and out. I didn't know if that would be a problem or not. Right now, we just have one entrance to get in there, and as we're talking about, Jimmy John's is pretty popular for those Prospect Meadow families. Do you see
Yeah,
where I'm
and
saying?
that could be
so-
something where we don't close the entrance today. We see
Okay.
how it works, and if it's bad, then we close it.
And close it later.
Yeah.
Good thing they're freaky fast, though, so they'll get you in and get you out.
Well, it'd be good, get the feedback from the business owners right there.
Yeah, and I mean, we can have the same
See what they say.
conversation with some of the other businesses too of if we do this and
Yeah.
people start cutting through.
Yeah, their feedback will be important as well.
And we'll start laying, what are those called, the tire strips?
Okay, but you do want to
Bike
vote on
strips?
Thursday.
Yeah, so on
directing
Thursday,
staff to
we want
proceed with
some,
that.
yeah, we want direction to move forward. I mean, if you guys need more time to, if you want to table it, that's fine, but we just, if you want to apply for TSIP, the deadline is August, so we would need to know. This would be a low-scoring project, but we can still throw our hat in the ring if you want to. Otherwise, we would hire an engineer and get the design started. So it is in the budget too. All but the roundabout would be within the budget that we have.
Your prediction is we will not probably get any TSIP money,
It's a low chance,
based
but,
on the score.
yeah, but if there's not very many people that apply for whatever reason,
Okay.
Okay, does anyone have a strong objection to having this on the agenda on Thursday? And
No.
we need more time for anything?
I'm fine.
Okay. All right. Number 3?
so that's items
Oh, 2,
3, 4, and 5.
Okay.
And 6. So next we have a petition from Bent Creek Drive requesting additional streetlights. And so this is just to receive, file, and refer to TAC. They do have a petition with the required number of signatures. Just for your information, this is where the petition originated, and then there's the little yellow circles with the lights that are out there today, but we'll get into that when we get into the TAC report. Unless you don't want TAC to review it.
Well, are they at 600 feet?
Very close to that without, just based on GIS. I have not gone out in the field and actually checked, which is our standard.
Mm-hmm.
But we would likely look through PD records to see if they've gotten calls for service and stuff out there as well as part of the TAC report.
Okay. Good. Number 8.
So 8 and 9, this is changing the uptown signs and paint. So there's 31 pages of signs in your packet, so I won't go through each one individually. But
Public
this
Works
is
for this?
taken care of by ordinance because we don't know how some of these were enacted. Some of them were enacted by ordinance, some of them resolution, and some of them may not have anything. So rather than spend time trying to decipher how they were put there for regulatory sign, this is going to be a blanket ordinance that will just remove them. And so you can see each page talks about whether we're keeping it, removing it, replacing it. And so some of those are so faded you can't even tell what they say. Some of the pictures that you look in your packet, that was from 17. Some of them are much more faded than they are today if you went out there. So we're recommending moving forward with this and updating the uptown.
Yes, sir.
So I think I looked through that, and it's amazing how many poles have like 5 signs on them, and it's just a clutter of signs. So I like I think we're all going to be pleased with the result. My question is has there been any discussion to kind of spread that out beyond this 4-block area? Besides just the immediate uptown?
So far, this was so Brooke Powtry gave the original request because we had so many and we had signs that said 9-hour parking and stuff like that, just to get rid of some of those that are not needed. So the main thing was to start here.
Okay.
There hasn't been a request to go farther out from this. This was the core request.
Okay.
So this is all in coordination with the Uptown District, and
Yep.
they're all on board with this, and
They requested it.
good. Okay. Just for general knowledge. Okay. Any questions on that one?
So we're doing it as an ordinance just because if there was an ordinance enacting one of these signs, that way we're removing it by ordinance because you can't remove an ordinance by resolution, so it will be 3 readings.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
And that way we're sure that,
That way we're sure that we knocked them
Not-
all out.
perfect.
This
Thanks,
is long overdue, thank you.
Yes.
We talked about
I
that
know.
in 16.
There'll be some residents who are happy too, who do point these things out to us, so. Yes, sir. Mr. Brandt.
Whose decision was it for some signs to stay and some signs to stay and some signs to go? Like, one I'm looking at here, remove no parking, remove no truck parking, remove no bicycle, but keep the 2-hour parking limit. So who decided all the other stuff can go, but the 2-hour parking has to stay in effect?
So we talked about a lot of that with the uptown, with our staff, and just went through that. They like the 2-hour, that way it cycles vehicles through, and it's not the business owners that are parking in front of their stores to help themselves out, versus the 9-hour parking, that's all day, so then the parking, it's 9-hour parking, 8 to 5. You don't really need that sign.
Yeah.
So it was a coordination
Just
effort.
curious.
Yep.
Because some weird ones stay, some go.
And there were some of them, like the St. Joseph's, they were contacted to see if they wanted to keep their signs, and I don't think they ever got back to us after numerous tries, so we're just taking them down.
Good. All right. Next.
So the next one is our Irish Drive. So for this one, this is extending Irish Drive from its existing end to Tower Terrace, and this is for the future fire station that we will build. Again, we got good bids. We had 6 of them total. The low bid was Abode Construction at 77.4% of the engineer's estimate, and the rest of them are up there. There's a late start date of September 3rd of 2019. There's 55 working days and $500 per day in liquidated damages. And the contractor wants to go ahead and get going on this sooner rather than later, and that's why we actually added the contract and bond to the agenda. Typically, that would be on the next council agenda, but they've already actually submitted shop drawings, and they're ready to get going on this project.
I just would have the clerk note that I turned over the gavel to Mayor Pro Tem. Thanks.
How many days were scheduled again for this, Mike? 55?
55 working days. But again, if they're wanting to get started early, I don't think they're going to use their 55.
Just out of curiosity, on our late days, I see 500, I see 750. How do we determine that? And I know that, I guess I want to be cautious here, but we do have some companies that have a history of being late, and is $500 enough?
So it depends on the impact to traffic. So if it comes down to a point where we actually have to take them to court, we have to prove that there's $500 per day in damages between the city, so my inspector's time, the engineer's time, the public transit that's going through there, the public, all that stuff. If the street's torn up, public service can't drive their vehicles down to pick up garbage. We actually do garbage bags and then have to manually pick it up and take it to the end of the street. So we have to see what that actual impact is. So for a street here where we're not impacting traffic at all, it's very hard to even prove that there's a damage to the city, other than if they didn't get it done on time, the fire station couldn't start.
Which leads me to the next thing. Does other development in the area, does that impact that project at all?
As far as? I guess
Well, in this case, it's the fire department, but let's say we're waiting to open up another development, or we've got other projects that are scheduled and slated, but they're delayed because now the street is delayed.
So it all depends. So like Hennessy and 13, that's on the primary. I believe that's $1,000 a day because that has a higher impact to the general public by having that project go longer. On a private subdivision, so if let's say that Mooney was installing this, the fire station wasn't going in and he was putting it as part of his subdivision, there would be no liquidated damages. It would just be him, the private sector, putting it in there.
And so there would be no recourse for obviously being delayed.
Correct. So if it's a private residential subdivision, they can take 5 years if they want to.
All right, thanks. I didn't mean to labor that one so much. I just wanted, some projects are spot on and some projects get delayed, and I just was curious on that clarification. So.
Yep. So both with the number of days and the amount of damages, we have to find that happy medium of we want to give them enough time that we get reasonable prices, because I can make it a really tight time frame, but then your prices go up. And by giving them that flexibility, but we also don't want to have it where they come in, tear the street out, and then leave. And then we have residents that have no way to get in or out and no contractors out there working either.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Any other questions for Mike? Yes, Mr. Jensen.
Yeah, I echo the concern to Lon, that my concern about this project and the boat getting more projects like this is the impact on 6th Avenue getting completed, which has been one of my priorities in trying to get that done as quickly as possible, but the current section they're working on has no penalty clause. So what are we able to do to let them do this project and yet continue with 6th Avenue? And I mean, what is their commitment to get 6th Avenue done? Have they made a timeline, in your opinion, a commitment that seems reasonable?
Yeah, I mean, last year was not good with all the rain that we got on that project.
Understand.
And we've already informed them that the next phase will have liquidated damages on it. So they are making progress out there.
So perhaps maybe that should be an internal consideration, for $25,000 more, maybe we go to the next bid and secure that projects are going to get done and in a timely fashion. I'm just opening up for conversation. I'm not
Sure.
saying,
So you just have to be careful about that. You have to give it to the lowest responsible bidder.
responsible.
Yep. And so you have to have them as a non-responsive bidder in order to not go with the low bid per state law. And Kara
I
can
would say,
correct me on that.
I mean, with Rachi's the next one down, they're
They're
doing
just as
projects
busy.
all over town too,
Yeah.
so.
And they're good bid numbers. I mean, so, get me wrong, I'm just pushing hard on Sixth Avenue, and I understand we got the bid, and this is an important project, so we got some
Right.
penalty
And
clauses, but it also means their effort will go here, not somewhere else.
And I can tell you on Sixth Avenue, they're almost done with their portion of the project. It's
Okay.
the subs, the concrete guys, the lights, the other stuff. Most of the utility work is getting close on Sixth Avenue for that section of the project.
Okay, all right.
And so then they would be coming to this project, doing the underground, and then again, it's waiting on the paving contractor to come in and pave the street.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
okay, any other questions for Mike on this topic before we move on? Seeing none, we'll move on.
All right, the next one is the project calendar for runway 1735. So with the direction we got at the last council meeting with moving forward with the zoning of only zoning the north-south runway, we feel comfortable moving forward with the plans. So the engineer's estimate is $2.2 million. It would bid on August 9th. We would have a public hearing, and we would also approve the contract on the 22nd with a late start date of September 9th. There's only 40 working days on this project, and here there's $750 per day in liquidated damages. The $750 was based on the flight school and their loss of revenue while it's being shut down. So that way we can validate that. We are going from a 23-foot wide to a 60-foot wide runway. It's staying the same length. It is an HMA PCC alternative bid, so we'll get numbers for both, and that way we can see how they come in against each other. A couple big issues that we're going to have are the lights and base cans, which are the runway lights that give the planes direction to land, have a 6 to 8 week lead time. And the trans closures and regulators, which give that power, it's basically a big transformer, that has a 12-week lead time. So there's obviously some concern that if that stays true and they can't get it earlier than that, they may only able to operate the airport during the day because they cannot operate without lights. And with the days getting shorter going into the winter, there is some concern of that. But we recommended at the Marion Municipal Airport Committee that we go ahead and bid it. It's not an ideal bidding climate right now either, bidding this late in the season to try and get it done. But at least bid it, see how the numbers come in. If we don't like them, we can always reject it, rebid it, and have a late start in the spring.
What are anticipated increase of costs by waiting into the new year? Any idea?
No, I mean, construction cost does go up by about 10% a year, but it being early in the construction season, if it was, maybe it doesn't have much impact. But the good thing is you're putting HMA against PCC, so you're opening the door. If it was just HMA, you have one bidder. Making it both, you're putting that the PCC contractors know that if they don't get those prices good, that HMA is going to beat them out.
And so, again, obviously, a little inconvenience of 40 days. I realize that they can't do, dusk to dawn landing and takeoffs, but I guess it's a small price to pay to get moving on it. So
there will be this airport during the construction will be closed, as it's put in the, what's the technical term? INTAMs or? I don't remember what the technical term is, but it will technically be closed, but there will be a grass runway strip. So the flight school could still run on that grass strip, but to the public it'll be closed.
okay. Ms. Gedalia, did I see your hand go up?
What you asked was where I was headed, so I'm good.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Thanks.
Okay. Mr. Jensen?
Just a question, with the current runway, is that going to be tore out?
No, there's
And start
sections
over?
of it that'll be routed and sealed. So depending on what option they go with, if it's asphalt, they'll router and seal the existing cracks that are out there, and that'll be used as a base.
Okay,
And then the outside of it will be cement treated material, and then we'll add concrete or asphalt to all of it.
on top, on everything.
So
all right.
it serves as a base.
Okay, thanks.
Atkins, did you have a question? No? Okay. Any other questions? No? Okay, that concludes our engineering. Thank you, Mike, we appreciate it. I'll turn the meeting back over to the mayor.
Thank you. All right, community development.
And Timberline.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
the first item that you
So
have.
the property that we're talking about is west on Blairs Ferry, west of Marion Boulevard. Timberline is under construction out there. If the council recalls, when this project started, there was a small lot on the west end of the property there that we had to acquire as a part of the Blairs Ferry Road improvement project. And there's been this lot that's been sitting there. When the project was moving forward, there was an agreement that we would sell that to them at that time. I think it's been sitting there for, it says the appraisal was on April 30th of 2018. So we're just getting to the purchase agreement, and we need to solidify that sale and then get the property final platted. We've kind of held up or indicated that we'd held up any access to the property and occupancy permits until we get this resolved. And not that there's been any issues with it, but we're just trying to get it solidified. So I'm just asking the council to move forward with this. We would sell the entire parcel back to them. It includes right-of-way. However, when they final plat to get their occupancy permit, we'll get that dedicated. It saves the city some dollars because we won't have to do an acquisition plat separately and record it separately in separate agreements. So that's kind of the backstory on how that would proceed.
But part of what we would sell them will be dedicated later as
part of the final plat.
Portion of the
Correct.
right of way. So,
Yep.
okay.
Yep. And we have a trigger on that. We won't issue an occupancy permit until it's final platted, and the final plat would require the dedication of the right of way.
So, okay. I assume that the price is based on an appraisal, right?
Absolutely.
And so the appraisal takes into account that part of that is a right of way, I'm sure.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And everybody that's involved in this understands that positioning and such. So.
Okay. Any questions on that one? All right. Next item, the next item is not started. Does anyone have any questions on that? Rezoning? Or One Research Center? None? Okay. All right, the next item is a public access easement related to Marion Janitorial Supply Company.
Yes, so the staff's been working with legal to prepare an easement agreement. The property owners located in this vicinity are on this property here. This is 16th and 17th Street. They've requested an easement across public property. As you can see where there's people driving across it currently to provide access for deliveries. You received a letter also, and I think numerous council members have been contacted by either their attorney or their representative or the owners themselves. Staff has reviewed this. The concern that we have is that we don't want a perpetual easement across the property. Ideally, this property would, when 6th Avenue is complete, would be seeded and put up for sale, RFP process, or however the council wants to proceed with that. But at this point, we really don't want to proceed with the sale until we have a project that would include improvements, and I think the value of that property is only going to go up as it's adjacent to the corridor. We've found that the private or public investment of the roads is going to increase the value and bring together a solid development project. So the way that the easement is currently being structured and would be for a 2-year period of time with a clause that it could be terminated within 30 days. And I don't think anybody on staff has any issues with that. It's being used currently. You can see there's a number of encroachments currently on the property that don't have easements. The parking lot, the cars that are there, there's no easements or agreements, so that's something we're going to have to clean up as well. We've kind of just held back a little bit because we're in the middle of the improvement project, and until we get to the point where the road's open or towards the end of that project is when we'd go through and start addressing some of those issues.
The big building, that comes right up to the boundary line?
Yes, it does.
It doesn't encroach.
So this is the city's property,
Right.
including the right-of-way
But
here.
the encroachment of the parking and all that has nothing, that's not related, that's a different business?
Yeah.
It's not
Correct.
related-
I believe so. I believe
It's not related to Marion
No.
Janitorial Supply?
And so what we're talking about would be to identify an easement area. They've requested that the city provide gravel across that at the city's expense. I've indicated that, from a staff perspective, we're not recommending that the city expend dollars on that. If that's the council's directive, obviously that's the way we'll go, but that's just how I've proceeded with the conversation. I figure it's in your guys' hands if you want to expend dollars for the gravel. We've asked that they would maintain the property between the easement. In the agreement, it'll ask that they maintain the property between the easement and the building, and then we would maintain the rest of the property. And again, if a project comes to light or there's issues, it would be terminatable. The agreement would be able to be terminated by the city council within 30 days. We did get an estimate from them on what the gravel would cost, and I believe it was around $1,000. I know you don't have the easement agreement. I'm working with legal to get that prepared. As soon as we get that accomplished, I think I corresponded with the mayor and Colette today just to say we would be getting that prepared and then able to get that to them and their representative before Thursday's meeting. But I know they're kind of anxious to get this rolling, so if there's concerns with that, please let me know, but I would get that prepared and get a copy out to the council before the meeting.
Okay.
Any questions?
Oh, go ahead.
I got just two quick questions, Tom. One is purchase of the gravel is one thing, but is that also including installation, grading, and?
I'd have to look
assume
at
there's more expense
I believe it did, but I'm not positive on
Okay.
that.
So the $1,000, just to be clear, the $1,000 cost includes everything? Buying
I know
it
the
and
petitioner's here.
install-
I don't know if that included It did, yeah.
Okay. And then my second question is in the proposal of giving them this temporary easement, was there any exchange of money or rents associated with that?
I've not proposed that. If the council was
Okay.
clearly in your court on how you want to proceed with that.
Okay, perfect. I just wanted a little bit more of a vision as to what the future held with that offer. Okay, thank you.
The one thing I would say is, as you can see, and as I've spoke to the owner of the property, I think when we were out there on site, a FedEx truck went through, and a UPS truck went through, and a lot of vehicles just drive through there. As you can see, it's kind of a worn area. Not that that means that we should continue to perpetuate driving over the ground, but clearly until 6th Avenue's open, it's not a major issue. We don't see any big concern with that. The area is pretty rough in that back area, and as it is now, I know the folks that own the business are proposing that, or suggesting that 7th Avenue is very dangerous for their delivery trucks. I think that's their perception. I've seen big semis back in off 7th Avenue where the traffic is stopped. It occurs. I know they have a difference of opinion as I do on that, but that's their major motivation, clearly, is to provide an opportunity for a semi-tractor trailer to come down 17th, continue across that easement, and then go up 16th Street and not have to do that reverse action on 7th Avenue.
I personally drove that last night, and I witnessed driving through there as well, too. So it's clearly packed down. It's been done for a while, and all of those businesses are going to encounter the same issues as their needs change and those build-outs change. So, this is an issue that's not going to be isolated to one individual or one company. But, okay, thank you.
And it's a temporary solution. I mean, that problem is always going to exist. There's no outlet onto 6th Avenue.
But you got to remember, too, that eventually when Seventh is redone and it's less traffic, there's more on Sixth, it'll be easier for a semi to stop in the middle of the road and back up, because there will be less traffic.
When Sixth Avenue is completed.
Right,
Yeah,
right,
a lot of things change then.
yeah.
Okay, so are you done with your presentation? Or?
I am.
Okay, so I think I'd like to hear what people think about. I think, yeah, the issue is the gravel and the request to pay for the gravel.
I drove it myself the other day too, and in my car, and I went through there, and it seemed like it was already full of gravel now. I don't know if anyone, you said you drove it.
Is it different if a semi-truck is driving across it?
I think that's the key, right, is that when it's muddy and it's a semi as opposed to
But
me
does
or my
it
car
get
when
muddy?
it's not muddy, right? Right, I think that's the question at hand is, does there need to be gravel there for a much larger vehicle than what we're driving when it is muddy? I had a chance to talk to the business owners, and they were suggesting that those trucks have a hard time going through there, right, when it is muddy and a semi-trailer coming through there. So I'd be interested to see, right, is there a way for us to, I don't want to set precedent, right, where we're paying for gravel for businesses. I think that puts us in a place that's not fair to everybody. But it would be interesting to see if there was a way, right, do we get it at a discounted price? I don't know, right? Can we get gravel cheaper than what they can get it? I don't know. I would think maybe we can, but I'm not sure from a city's perspective because we're buying that. Or is there a way in which we can partner to find some resolution, especially in the short term? I think we just need to sort of find a solution in the short term. It's not going to be a long-term solution as you're suggesting, right? Sixth comes up, Seventh, and what's going to happen with the development of our property long-term. So that's what I'd be curious to see.
I agree 100% with Colette's comments. I'm really not interested in setting the precedent. I understand the situation, but if that does ever get soft and turns to mud, there's not enough gravel that you can put on there for semis to travel through. So you're just going to put more rock on top of rock because it's going to sink in if it ever gets really, really wet. I know it's compacted now, but if there's any concern, if it's hard enough to drive on now, I'd leave it like it is. But if it's ever going to get really muddy, any gravel put on there is just going to sink into the mud.
I assume you're okay with granting the easement?
Oh, easement, yeah, absolutely.
Did you have something else?
I don't know enough about if gravel will help if it's muddy or not. I'm not sure about that. I don't have the experience in that. It makes sense to me, but I don't know. So.
Anybody? Everyone go next. Yeah, do you have any thoughts on it?
Nothing new.
Okay,
You know,
same.
I hate to set precedent. I know we've been approached in other situations, and I feel like this could certainly do that. So I think that the grading is something that we could certainly help out on. That should hopefully help with that. But paying for the gravel, I don't think so.
Anyone else?
I just wonder if it needs, how much more gravel it needs, just from what I witnessed. But again, I'm not an expert, just like Colette was saying. But I don't have any issues with the easement. Maybe they can purchase the gravel and we can install it for them and do all the grading. And there's got to be something.
Okay.
Or do we have? I guess no public works here. Do we have gravel ourselves?
I don't know that we have a lot of gravel. I mean, we have a sales tax exempt form that would save them 7%, but that's about it.
And I don't know if I was reading in Randy's comment, and correct me, but were you trying to say that sometimes or usually people would pay for the right to use someone else's property? So we've already, by giving the easement, we're already doing something.
Well, yeah, and I'm not saying in this particular one, as I read the resolution here, it says that we're giving them access to that. In some cases, there is a value to using property. That's not the case in this particular one here, because it's, again, too, what's the Band-Aid for? I mean, we're not changing anything. When the new owner comes in and purchases that, there will be complete restriction 100%. There will be no trucks going down that. So all we're doing is giving them a couple of years of access to it. We're understanding the road build-outs are going to be a little different. I personally did not talk to the owner. Are we talking about a semi that's unloading a two-wheeler with 12 items on it, or are they unloading 12 pallets and 6,000 pounds of product? I mean, there's a lot that goes into this. Where I stand on the resolution is, I wanted to know, was there monetary value that we are not asking for, because in some cases temporary easements do give that, but just for clarification, I'm going to vote that we allow the access, but I will not be voting to pay for or grade anything. Again, when we throw in the offers to do something, it's time, it's staff, it's fuel, it's expenditures. Again, it just continues to keep going on and on and on, and that's the precedent I think that we're all trying to share here. So that's where I stand as well.
Okay. Well, I guess I see everybody's point. I kind of agree with Will that if there was a middle ground, I'd be willing to consider that. But it looks like we have a majority that would be willing to grant the easement but not pay for the gravel. I know that we've been told that the owners will be here on Thursday to address the council, so we'll hear from them on Thursday. Okay. Any other discussion on this? Anything to add, Tom? Okay. There's one more item that's not starred. If anyone has a question on it, or if you have anything to add on that, Tom. UA Properties.
I just provided the council at the dais this afternoon the purchase agreement that was signed by Mr. Culver.
Okay, we have a discussion regarding local option sales tax oversight committee. Is that you, Mr. Pluckon, or who's that? Or Leanne? Okay.
Well, I've been having ongoing conversations with the mayor about filling the local option sales tax committee, and I think one of the council members had asked for an update on the committee. We're currently down to 2 members, Dwight Hogan and Phil Hirschner. Feedback that I have gotten from the committee members, some really just don't like the change to the committee and the fact that they have a very, very limited purpose now. I'm not sure that there's much more to say beyond that as far as the feedback I had received. As far as what the committee is to do right now, just as a refresher, if you're not familiar with the Local Option Sales Tax Oversight Committee, they are to check how we are using local option sales tax against the ballot language and make sure that we are basically following it. And that's the only purpose. What questions did council have that I can answer? I wasn't, what are you looking for?
I'll throw a question out there.
Please go ahead.
In having experience with the local option sales tax, first of all, I would like to, I want to recognize that there's been a lot of volunteers that work that, and all their help's appreciated. But moving on, with that being said, prior to the local option sales tax committee being formed, we also did not have a CIP. So with the city now moving forward with having a CIP, it kind of almost operates in the same fashion, where some of these same items are being allocated and holding things accountable as to the ballot language, and that's what that oversight committee, their responsibility is just to make sure that projects that are funded meet the ballot language. And so, is there anything that we would be missing as a council to understand if we wanted to look at this and maybe reconsider whether or not this committee should continue, or we have other alterations for this committee? It is a difficult one we're down in numbers, so we would either need to find vacancies, or the vacancies are there to be filled, or is it a consideration that we need to relook at whether or not this committee and its purpose run hand in hand with the CIP?
Just so you know as well, I did let Dwight Hogan, who is currently the chairperson, as well as Phil Hirschner, the vice chairperson, know that we have the meeting today, but they had other commitments. As far as, is there anything you're missing? I mean, no. Their very limited purpose is what it is. When the 2009 local option sales tax did close out, our auditors also take a look at those things and check to see if we are meeting ballot language. Finance department also looks at that. So it's really up to council as to whether you want to continue the committee. I do like the idea of only meeting with the CIP. You know, once you hit that adopted CIP, have them, or a draft close to adoption of CIP, to have them review it and check for the ballot language, and then to check any amendments that involve local option sales tax throughout the year to the CIP. But I wouldn't see the need to do the every other month, I think, is what the ballot
very
or
limited,
the bylaws
very
state.
limited meetings for their limited purpose.
Yeah.
Yep, and then we could also do project presentations at that meeting on how local option sales tax is being used, so it could be used as a public if people show up.
What are people's thoughts?
Yeah, I agree that the scope of this has really shrunk with the CIP and with what this committee is doing. Is there another committee that could take on this one narrow task, essentially for some review process?
Are you talking citizen committee?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is there another one that could say, hey, you're already tangentially involved in something that this could be kind of added on? Because this committee here is, you're talking almost one meeting a year, and that seems to be.
Which, if there are people who are, I don't mean to interrupt you,
Yeah.
but if there are people who are willing to serve that purpose and to meet once a year, you know, so why not? My only concern is I don't want to create a perception that, you know, we have public, you know, input into this process. I don't want to be perceived as somehow we're taking something away from the public. If you know, unless, like you said, if there's another committee that they could take over that role, that is a citizen committee that could take over that role, then it's still.
One other conversation that we've had internally, and I think I maybe had with the mayor once, one other thing that we could do, we already do a local option sales tax monthly report that's provided to the local option sales tax committee. We could actually put that on our website so any member of the public could come forward and speak to something if they believe it doesn't meet ballot language. That would be an alternative option if you're looking for options.
I mean, for what we're asking this committee to do now, it's already, we have, for gosh sakes, we got CPAs looking at it. You know? So I'm pretty comfortable, you know, from that standpoint. I think hopefully the citizens would be very comfortable with that. So the purpose of what this committee was originally put together for has pretty much gone away as we've progressed with the CIP. So.
Like I say, my personal opinion is I'd much rather spend time building out the website platform, but it truly is your direction.
So
I like
we need input.
I like that idea of putting it online and anyone can look at it and have the ballot language there, and anyone has questions.
As long as it's clear and
Yeah.
in a way that is concise and consumable for people that they
Easy
can
to read, yeah.
It's not pages and pages of things, and it's very clear and easy for people to understand, because we deal with it every day, so you know, it's not hard for us, but for people who aren't encountering it every day, you know, so it's easy for them to read. Yes, ma'am.
Yep, so I agree with your point about disbanding volunteers who want to have oversight onto something, but I also think 2 people on a committee that was once, was it 9, is not awesome. So can we, go ahead.
But we do have we have applications of people who would like to be on the committee.
Oh, we do?
Yeah, we do. Yeah.
Well, then,
So-
to that, I think that we should scale back and go twice a year. You and I both served on SIAC on Lenmar that met twice a year. It was just, you know, very limited in scope, and it was based on state reports that came out. So I feel like that's kind of a happy medium in addition to the website, and then through the life of these lost funds, and then maybe we reevaluate a future lost vote and having a minimum threshold of people needing to serve on it. And if there's not interest that rises to that level, we can disband it. But I just think it's a perception thing, you know. So I'm not in favor of getting rid of it, but I'm in favor of scaling it back to maybe twice a year.
And the number of people on the committee? Shrink that?
Or, I don't know,
It's
is there a
seven.
state?
It's currently 7.
Is that regulated by the state when you have
No.
this type of vote? Or is that something that
was
Marion
our-
did by putting together the committee? I'm not really sure.
It
of
was the
history.
committee itself, I think.
It's-
It was originally created by resolution, I believe it was 7, and then at one point it was expanded to 9 and then contracted back to 7.
And was that a Marion thing or a state thing for lost?
Marion.
What do other municipalities do?
Some don't have any at all.
Because I know we were just talking about loss the other day, Lon, and you mentioned Cedar Rapids kind of being able to dictate when the next one goes out and how the other cities, smaller, have to kind of follow in their coattails. What do these other cities in our group do? Do they have committees?
I believe Cedar Rapids is the only other one in the metro area that has an oversight committee.
At least for this one, because we've had it until this one serves out all the funds and the years, I think we should not disband it.
Yeah, I guess that's my concern. I mean, I think everybody has valid points. There's plenty of oversight and opportunities for oversight, but I worry about perception, as Renee said, of having created this committee and then taking away that role. But if it's scaled back, and with the renewal of the local option sales tax coming up, maybe they have a role in that. I don't know. Other thoughts, other questions?
I would like to see it online, like she said, but I also think if there are, I didn't think there were applications at all.
Sure.
But if you do have people for it, then yeah, I'd say a couple times a year, like Renee said.
It could be just
Not much.
once a
Or
year, when
once
they
a
look
year,
at the
yeah, depending on what
CIP and
is needed.
how those funds are being used in the CIP, and they say okay or not okay.
All it takes is once, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you have a chance to say something? Okay.
I sure did.
Anyone else? Okay. Did you get what you needed from us?
I believe so.
Is there-
I
is
think
there-
the only question I have now really is on process. And I think I've worked most of that out with Lon. Basically, which follows which. You adopt a CIP, and then they go and review it, and then they bring something to you that says, I don't think this meets ballot language. I'm working through those details, just so you know.
Okay.
Because it's changed. Before it was kind of, they made a decision before you guys formally approved something that was funded with Lost, and now with the CIP it's kind of flipped. So just working through that process.
Is there any strong objection by anyone to doing it this way, putting it on the website, and also continuing the committee with the scaled back meeting schedule? Yes.
I guess I would like to say, if we do continue it, I value our volunteers' times, and I think the biggest concern I have is the thorough understanding of what's expected out of this group. While I was on it, a lot of questions came up, learned a lot, but there was no clear understanding as to what the role was. We're not there to approve or disapprove. We're just there as an oversight committee to make sure that it follows the language. If we find that we feel this does not go to the public works or transportation or what have you, then that needs to be brought back to you, the city manager, and it needs to be readdressed. That has never happened, and I'm proud to say that those were issues. The group, though, I think was lacking the information and the direction as to what that group's role is and what their authorities are. And that's where a lot of the confusion comes to play is to exactly what it is. And so I think if we do have the applicants, I think they need to be educated as to exactly what it is. There needs to be a little bit of a mission of understanding what it is, and so everybody's on the same board, because I think everybody came thinking that there was going to be, we're approving or disapproving, or we have lateral movement to override the CIP and make alterations. That is not what this group is, that is not their role. And I think that's where that clarification needs to come in, and that's where some of the confusion parts are. And like you said, before it was a direction for the CIP, but now we have the CIP, so it's the chicken and the egg. This does not step in front of the CIP. Again, it's an oversight committee just simply another set of eyes looking at it. So if we continue it, I'm glad we do, but I want to value our volunteers' times, and if there's no value to it, let's get rid of it, because I don't like wasting time. We got sometimes too many meetings, so I'll leave it at that, but my 2 cents are out there, so thanks.
Sure. And from what I understand, it was, there were attempts to communicate, but I think there were some people who didn't want to hear that answer, that they wanted a bigger role for the committee. Okay. If everyone's okay with proceeding that way, we'll proceed. Okay. I think that concludes all the items for discussion on tonight's agenda, and we have a closed session. We need a motion.
So at this time, Your Honor, I would make a motion to adjourn to closed session regarding land acquisition and litigation as permitted under sections 21.5, subsection 1, chapter J, and section 21.5, subparagraph 1, section C of the Code of Iowa, 2 separate items.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to adjourn to closed session regarding land acquisition and litigation as permitted under the Code of Iowa. We need the opinion of counsel, please.
I have reviewed the proposed subject matter for the closed session and find the same to be appropriate under Iowa Code Sections 21.51J and 21.51C.
Thank you. Is there, do we need discussion, or we just take a roll call vote? Proceed to roll call vote?
Ms. Atkins?
Here.
Mr. Jensen?
Yes.
Mayor Abuasley?
Yes.
Mr. Sternad?
Yes.
Mr. Brandt?
Yes.
Ms. Gedalia?
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for attending and joining us tonight. We will adjourn now to the closed session. We'll return to open session after the closed session is completed. Thank you.